time for
Vulture.
Vulture. Okay, so Vulture published earlier this week a list of the top 25 most devoted fan bases. And a lot of people were wondering how they determined this ranking. They say in the article, which is linked on our promo for tonight, Vulture has scanned the great plains of pop culture, weighing passion versus mere popularity to decide the 25 most devoted fans of entertainment, which kicks off our week-long exploration of all things fandom. And they added, this list is not about mere numbers, it's about fervency. So it appears that they weren't necessarily looking for the biggest fan bases, but the ones that are the most obsessive and diehard and loyal and enthusiastic. So the Hunger Games ranked at
Number 7.
Number 7.
Number 7.
Lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7. And we are right between Lady Gaga, who made it in at number 8, and Lord of the Rings, which is number 6. And in case you guys are curious and haven't read the article or looked at the list, number 5 is Justin Bieber and the Beliebers. Number 4 is Harry Potter. Number 3 is Twilight. Number 2 is Star Wars. And number 1 is Game of Thrones. So first of all, do we agree with the number 7 ranking? Adam, do you agree? Do you think this is where we belong?
I think at this stage, it's not crazy to be at number 7. I think it's probably appropriate. Maybe the bigger problem I have is not the fact that it's number 7. It's that some of the options above it, I think, are a little bit questionable to be ahead of Hunger Games. But and actually, I know this was just tweeted. I'm going to go to Kait in a second here because on Victor's Village, now it was Tiffany who wrote this, but makes the argument that number 7 is pretty good and pretty impressive considering how far we're not along in the series, just one movie in the books. So I think there's a legitimate case to be made. The bigger issue that I have is how is Twilight number 3, 4 spaces ahead of Hunger Games, whereas I really have not sensed that it belongs there at all right now. Maybe in its heyday it did. I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but I've definitely gotten a sense that Hunger Games has overtaken it, in my opinion, just in terms of the vibes I've gotten from general public and fans. And it's one thing understandable for Twilight to be maybe ahead of Hunger Games, but how in the world is Harry Potter number 4? I mean, we can get into this, but Harry Potter should have been number 1 to me. As much as I love a lot of the top, I love Game of Thrones, I love Star Wars, but Harry Potter is fandom in the sense that it completely revolutionized the idea of the way the modern fan sites work. It's what we modeled so much of what we did with Hunger Games off of, and it's had such a long-standing testament that I think that Lord of the Rings, Star Wars definitely could be ahead of Hunger Games, but some of these other ones, I don't know. I'm glad we're ahead of Lady Gaga, although for our friend in the chat room who loves Hunger Games and Gaga, she has to be pretty excited to see Hunger Games and Lady Gaga right next to each other at 7 and 8. So I'm excited for her. Kait, let's just go to you. First of all, I assume you agree with the platform of your site, that number 7 is perfectly fine. Do you agree with all these rankings, especially as someone who I know is also a big fan of Harry Potter? Are you satisfied with that number 4 spot and Hunger Games in 7?
I'm not satisfied with the number 4 spot for Harry Potter. I'm not quite sure how Game of Thrones is number 1. However, I am comfortable with what the Hunger Games is, and I do understand in terms of fandom why Twilight might have ranked higher, and it's not because they have a bigger, more sophisticated fandom. It's because they have more crazies. They have more people who are going to run out and do ridiculous things in the name of Twilight and, you know, get the insane tattoos and, you know, stalk celebrities and all that jazz. And in a scary way, that is considered dedication. And thankfully, thank goodness, because I would be so embarrassed if we did, most Hunger Games fans don't have that type of dedication.
I mean, I guess you're right. Maybe they don't have the dedication into being insane, as you're saying. But
exactly.
I don't know.
Have you seen videos of Robert Pattinson walking down the street?
Oh, that great video of the fans just losing their...
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. That I think is why they're above the Hunger Games, is because people just lose their heads completely, I think, over it.
And it's not just like teenage girls losing their heads either. It's like women of all ages.
Yeah, like there was that lady on Yahoo, right, that they interviewed where she had like a entire room in her house dedicated to Twilight merchandise. I mean, that's far out there. I think that's why they're higher.
No, that's fair. You're right. I mean, the teen girl aspect is, and I say that not dismissively. I'm just saying that there is definitely a contingent of Twilight fans. I just don't understand, and I know a lot. Crystal, you love Game of Thrones. Savanna, you love Game of Thrones. I'm a huge fan. I don't know if anyone else on here is as much a fan as we are, but I was delighted to see it getting this kind of recognition because I think it's wonderful. But I was a little surprised that it got the number one spot.
I was too.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually would have put Star Wars first just because it's older and it's got such a strong, like not the same kind of crazy as Twilight, but I mean, people are really into Star Wars, you know.
No, they are. And Star Trek, someone pointed out on Twitter that Star Trek should be higher. I agree with that too. I mean, even if some people don't love it, that is a hardcore fan base.
Star Trek was like the first crazy fans. Crazy in a good way there, because not the creepy kind of crazy, but the dedicated kind of crazy.
So, all right, let me ask this question then. And Savanna, I want to actually get your take on this first. Can Hunger Games move up from number 7?
I guess, maybe. I don't know.
Like at the end of the Mockingjay films, is it reasonable to think that then it'll be like number 3 or 4? Or maybe
Probably.
even higher?
I mean, probably, just because I think, you know, Twilight and Harry Potter might fade. I mean, honestly, this list seems to be more about what's relevant right now, personally, than the long term, except for Star Wars up there. But, I mean, like Justin Bieber, that fandom might be number 5 according to Vulture right now, but in 10 years, like, you know, please.
Hey, so do you think Twilight's, like, fandom has longevity? Like, do you think, because, I mean, for me, my Twilight phase came and went in, like, 6 months. So I have to wonder if it's going to happen like that for other people, you know? I mean, are people going to be this crazy about it 2 years from now after the last movies come out? Or I don't know that it has longevity. I think Hunger Games does because it teaches you a lot about life and politics and causes and stuff like that. So I think that has, like, potential to last. I don't know about Twilight.
I think longevity should be a real factor in this. I mean, that's why Star Wars, look at how popular it still is even now. And Lord of the Rings, I mean, obviously it's been resurrected by the recent films, Lord of the Rings films, 2001, 2002, 2003, and then The Hobbit coming out December 14th, which I'm super, super excited about. But, you know, the fact that that's stuck around that long, an interesting question will be, in 20, 30 years, will people still be reading and watching the Hunger Games films? Maybe there'll even be a second go-around, remakes of the Hunger Games movies by then. You don't even know what's going to happen. Will Harry Potter be as popular among our next generation's children as they are now? That's, I think, the ultimate test. Well, I guess the bigger question is, it's this question that we've posed in the promo. Do we agree with this ranking and their breakdown of the fandom? That we've addressed. But is the average demographic really, quote, female, teen, or teen at heart? So that, I think, we've kind of alluded to that. But that was more what I meant. Tool was the wrong word. I meant more in terms of the demographics. do you think that the average, I mean, you have fangirls, you have fanboys, but Natalie, you're still there, right? Because I know that you may be a fangirl, but I have seen you watch the Avengers firsthand.
Yes.
And I saw you getting pretty excited about some fanboy-ish type stuff. So would you say, I mean, when you look at this stuff, is it really more demographic-based, or do you think it's universal?
No, I think I'd have to say more universal. I definitely have always regarded fandom as incredibly female-heavy, which I think is really awesome. Like, I know when I grew up on online fandom, from like 2000 to 2006 was kind of my peak. I know that you couldn't find any guys, or like anytime I met someone who claimed to be a guy, I was sure that it was like the person was lying. And now I think it's a lot more even, but I don't know. It did rub me the wrong way a little bit how it said that our demographic is like female teen or teen at heart. Like that seemed a bit reductionist. Like, because I'd say like through the podcast I've met so many male fans like you and Sam and other ones, and that I thought was tough to say that people only women care about the series just because there's a female protagonist.
Yeah, I was just going to say I continually am baffled by this by people who classify the Hunger Games as being something that's for teen girls. I actually read an article today at the Huffington Post. It was about the Oscars, and it was two of their entertainment people were sort of having a back and forth about movies that might be nominated, and the Hunger Games was brought up. And one of the guys basically said that the movie was geared towards young girls. And I personally am just continually baffled by this. Like, even just looking at the movie, I don't see anything about the movie that is geared towards young girls. I mean, unless they're talking about the fact that there's, a 16, 17-year-old protagonist. But it's like, look at the movie Hannah. Why wasn't that movie described as being geared towards young girls? I find it very strange. And what actually really I found sort of offensive about the Vulture breakdown was they said, thanks to better writing, that's not the offensive part, and kid-on-kid violence, the franchise attracts a wider following than its vampire counterpart. It's like they're implying that it's kid-on-kid violence that attracts guys to the Hunger Games fandom, which seems very offensive to me. I don't think that's the case at all. What about the whole political storyline and all of the social justice issues that the Hunger Games brings to the table? It's very odd to me. What are your thoughts on this? Anyone, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the review made it seem like these stories were so incredibly shallow. And I think they're correct in saying that maybe the average demographic, looking at it as a whole, you're going to have more teen girls. Okay, sure. But I don't think you have, everyone else is going to be teen at heart just because they're in it for the teen Peta, teen Gale, or or even saying that it was the Twilight's counterpart when we were talking about longevity of the fandom. I just think the importance of these stories are those underlying themes of politics and, the messages about society or where society is headed. And I think that the Hunger Games has a ton more longevity than the three-way love story